All right, we are going to take some time to review some fractions here so that next week we're prepared to start learning some more and kind of pick up where we left off. I recognize that some of this might be an easy review, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and ready to go for Monday, okay? So some of this I'm going to do for you during this video. Whatever I do during this video, I'm going to keep in the document, and you do not have to do it again. I've already done it. I've already showed it to you. Whatever is not complete, so whatever I leave while I go through this video, that's what you'll be completing for today's review, okay? And make sure that when you're done with this, that you turn it into Google Classroom. Many of you have been doing a great job turning things in. You've noticed I've given you feedback or I've returned. Just make sure that you are clicking that turn in or mark as done video or link, okay? So our first part here, we're looking at our vocabulary. We are remembering that the numerator is the parts of the whole, right? It's that top number. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move parts of the whole into our definition here. We also know that our denominator is the total number of pieces in the whole. So this is what's kind of the whole piece. I would like for you to go ahead and pick these two boxes and notice that the red arrow is pointing to this bottom number and this orange arrow is pointing to this top number. If you could go ahead and move this into whichever box you think it belongs into to match your vocabulary, that would be great. Our next part here, we're talking about parts of a whole, so this is exactly what a fraction is, right? We're representing part of something. Part of a whole. So we see these 4 stars. We see that this is parts of a set. There are 4 total stars, 3 of them are blue or this teal color. If we were to represent this in fractions, we could say 3/4 of the stars are blue. We also, though, could write a different fraction for this, and we could say 1/4 of the stars are pink. Any way that we're representing part of the whole object there. This one here I'm going to do for you, and then the next page you're going to do by yourself. This should be, I hope, a really easy review for you right now. We have some cute little fireflies here. We're looking at how many of these are green. So there are 4 total, which is what I have down here. And I'm looking there 1, 2, 3 that are actually green. So we're going to go ahead and say that there are 3 parts of that whole. 3 out of the 4 fireflies are green, 3/4. Go ahead and complete this here. You are going to need to tell me the whole and the part, so the numerator and the denominator. How many of the apples are red? Just another picture for you to see for fractions. We look at these. This is another way to represent parts and wholes. Both of these show that there's 1/4 of the shape shaded green. Remember that the shapes, the parts have to be equal. If they're not equal, then it's technically not a fraction or an accurate fraction. For this next part, you're going to go ahead and solve and tell me what part of the fraction is shaded. So I'll do the first one here for you, and then you will be responsible for this blue one and this pink one. Here I'm looking at this green shaded circle, and I'm going to start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces in total. So I know that's my whole, so I'm going to change this to 8. And now I'm looking how many pieces are shaded. And I have 1, 2, 3. So I could say that 3/8 of this fraction are shaded green. So go ahead, when you do this, you'll be doing the blue one and the pink one. On our next page, you're doing the same thing, which parts of the whole are shaded. So continue working there. And then we're practicing again, kind of representing with our unit fractions. We talked about unit fractions being those bar pieces, kind of like the fraction pieces we had that we used in class. Things like 1/4, 1/3, 1/2, these are our unit fractions. So when we look at this, we're seeing that we have a whole of 4 pieces, and each of these little pieces is technically 1/4. But we have shaded in 3 of them, which tells us that we have 3/4 shaded blue. So our total fraction here would be 3/4. Your job here is going to be to take these pieces and represent the fraction, the shaded part. So I have 6/8, so that means that there should be 8 pieces here for the whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And my numerator tells me that 6 of those are shaded. So I'm going to go ahead and move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these over to represent 6/8, and hopefully you can move yours a little bit better than I did. So go ahead and you're going to do this bottom part and represent 3/4 by yourself. This next part is the same process, except for you have to tell me the numerator and the denominator based on what they have already shaded for you. So I have 1, 2, 3 pieces in my whole. I have 1, 2 pieces shaded. What do you think the fraction is that goes here? This next part shows us a number line. So we're looking at identifying our fraction pieces on an actual number line. So here we see that this number line has been divided into 4 equal parts. Our whole, of course, remember, we would represent that as 4/4. We wanted to write it as a fraction. So this is showing that this chunk is technically a fourth, this chunk is a fourth, and this chunk is a fourth. And if I put my star there, I have 3/4 of that number line identified. For this solve it, you're going to go ahead and tell me what fraction is represented on this line. So for example, I have 0 to 1 here. What did I divide this into equal parts? I like to be able to draw like a loop almost on it so that I can see. So if I were to take my arrow and go 1, 2, 3, 4, this would show me that this piece was divided into 4 equal parts, which tells me that my denominator is going to be 4. My blue star, I want to see which part that is landing on. So again, if I count, I can go 1, 2, so I can represent this as 2/4 in a fraction. Your job will be able to find out what this bottom one is. What is the whole and the fraction part there? For this next part, you are going to be responsible for telling me where is the half on this number line. Move the star and tell me, is the half here? Does this represent a half in a number line? Is the half here? Or is this where a half would be represented? You can take a moment if you would like to stop and reflect. All you need to do is move the circle over the thumb to tell me how you're feeling with fractions thus far in our review. After you complete your reflection, there are 2 word problems for you to solve that I would like for you to try on your own, please. And then the challenge you absolutely do not have to do. I am going to leave the challenge here though for those of you who feel like you would like to think about fractions in a different way or use a picture to help you solve something challenging that we haven't quite talked about yet. But this is not something that needs to be required at all. Okay? So again, I'm going to leave the ones that I've completed, and then you will just be responsible for anything that is not quite done to review so that I can see where we need to go for Monday for fractions.